Will you join me in giving a nice Alabama welcome to the Honorable Mr. David Walker? Thank you, sir.
Great to be back in Birmingham. I was born here 65 years ago. One of my grandfathers was a steel worker, the other one was a mine worker. That's what, Birmingham was all about back then. It's come a long way. Congratulations. What I want to do is I want to talk to you about some facts, some truth, some tough choices about the true state of our nation's finances. I'll also talk a little bit about the states and some of the local challenges that exist there. I want to save plenty of time for Q&A. I promise you this won't be death by PowerPoint. I'm not going to cover every bullet on here, but this is available to you if you want afterwards to take a look at. So let me start out. The federal government's grown too big, promised too much, needs to restructure. Now let me provide you some evidential matter behind that. In 1912, U.S. government represented 2% of the economy. In 2015, it was 20. In 2016, it's higher, and now it's going up. So stated differently, the simple principle of math, the federal government has grown 10 times bigger in a little over 100 years. And it's also lost control of the budget. Now, there's three primary reasons. In 1913, the year after this, three things happened. Income tax, Federal Reserve, and senators became directly elected by the people rather than appointed by state legislatures. So the first two fuel the size and growth of the federal government. They also enable us to manipulate interest rates. And the third, undercut states' rights. Only 32% was controlled by the Congress every year. And that includes all of the express and enumerated responsibilities envisioned by the nation's founders for the federal government. All of them. They're getting squeezed. These we've written blank checks for. That cannot be sustained over time. Now this is spending adjusted for inflation. So it's 2015 dollars. The green represents revenue adjusted. The blue bar or red bars represent spending. If it's blue, it's a Democratic president. If it's red, it's a Republican president. And obviously, as you know, the president proposes the budget, the Congress disposes, et cetera. But this gives you a sense. The bottom line is spending is a bipartisan problem. Front door spending, back door spending. And for most times in recent years, with the exception of when I was in office as Comptroller General, we've had deficits. When I came in, for the record, we had surpluses for 4 years. Keep in mind we had surpluses 98, 99, 2000, 2001, then we returned to deficits. And then, this was obviously after the market crash, after, TARP, the stimulus program, et cetera. The largest deficit in history, $1.4 trillion. It came down somewhat, but now it's headed back up. And it's headed back up for two primary reasons. Known demographic trends, 10,000 plus people a day are retiring for Social Security and Medicare, and rising healthcare costs. I mean, there are other reasons, but those are the two primary reasons that it's rising. And you look at the balance sheet and you look at the footnotes, and you apply that very simple principle that we talked about before called math, which is the new four-letter word in politics, okay, math. You'll find that, rather than $5.3 trillion in debt, which is what we were told by the government that we had in 2000, well, we really had about $20.4 trillion in debt and unfunded obligations and other liabilities that we need to deal with. Things like unfunded civilian and military pensions, retiree health care, things like unfunded Social Security promises, unfunded Medicare promises, environmental cleanup costs, a variety of things like that. So the number really wasn't 5.3, it was really 20.4, but a few trillion here, a few trillion there. Pretty soon you got real money. In 2015, the number, wasn't 16 something trillion, 16.7 trillion, 17 trillion. It was more like 65 trillion. And now that number is probably about 67 to 68 trillion. And it's going up. And it's going up because the miracle of compounding is working against us. The federal government is on an imprudent and unsustainable path for fiscal policy and monetary policy. Both are unsustainable. We're going to have to change course. The states and some municipalities have serious challenges too. You have a county that declared bankruptcy here, Jefferson County, which is this county, declared bankruptcy. It's not too late, but we need to start sooner rather than later. And one could ask, what all does this mean for you? The general level of taxation is going up over time. The sooner we deal with this, the less they'll go up. Social Security will be reformed, but without major impacts on people 55 to 60 and over. Young people will get it, but at a later age and a different amount. Health care has to be restructured, and you're probably going to pay more than you expect for health care. Government is way overpromised for health care, way overpromised. The financial challenges with health care are multiple times the challenges for Social Security. You're likely to live longer than you expect. Markets are likely to be more volatile. Interest rates will rise over time. Investment returns are likely to be lower than historical averages. Housing preferences are changing, and valuations are much more volatile and variable than they have been. You need to plan, save, invest, preserve, and protect for your entire life expectancy. These are just a few of the messages. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and I thank you very much for your attention.
David Walker talked about his own personal financial situation and talked about longevity of life. You need a financial plan that will assure that you'll have income so that you'll enjoy life.
Mr. Walker mentioned change from the bottom up, how we need to educate ourselves so that we can make differences on our own, the you and me level, the personal level.
You need something like this to help you reconnect, ask questions, and get engaged at a different level.